Thank you so much for being here. If you need to grab a cup of coffee or a snack, then there's some right over here. I'm gonna turn off. Good reminder. Thank you. I'm gonna silence my cell phone. And then we will get going. Just a few quick before we. I'm going to convene the town board meeting momentarily. I just wanted to make sure there's sign-ins back there. If you wouldn't mind signing in, we'd be most grateful. If you're not already getting our newsletter, along with the over 1,200 people to do, please add your email address because we'd love to be able to connect with you. There are bathrooms right outside the door on your right-hand side, and emergency exits are where the wonderfully signs are. So please go out the front, or there's another secondary exit back here. Should we hopefully not need them. And with that, I'm going to call the state of the town in order. May we please have a roll call? It is 9:10 a.m.
Sure. Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Manley.
Present. And I'd also like to take a moment to introduce other staff we have here. We have Tom Cook Carissa. We have Rachel Kennedy, who runs our youth services. We have Scott Stewart, our highway superintendent, commissioner of DPW. We have second deputy town supervisor Carissa over here. And do we have, I don't think we have any other town staff. Oh, sorry, Casey, sorry. We have our deputy clerk, Casey, in the back. Thank you. And she's the one who managed to hold our retreats together. Thank you so much for doing that. Special thanks to the village for allowing us to host here, the fire department for making it possible. And anybody else I need to, sorry. Oh, and Will is online. Will Glennon is our recreation director. He is joining us remotely. This is being recorded. And will be posted on the town's YouTube page for anybody who can't make it. Anybody who needed to join remotely is able to do so. And the slides that we're going to go through tonight are also posted on the town website. So thank you so much for coming out and spending what looks like it'll be a very beautiful but mildly chilly day with us. And the way we're going to run it is we're going to go through, we have about 56 slides, and which sounds daunting, but we have trees. Feel free to avail yourselves during the presentation if you need sustenance. And then we'll have a Q&A session because I want to make sure that every question can be heard on the recording. When you ask a question, I'm going to repeat it back so that it makes it onto the recording and so that everybody going forward can hear it also. So with that, we will jump into our materials. Okay, so today we're going to be covering Parks and Recreation, the clerk's office, building code, and planning zoning updates. Scott will be talking about the highway and DPW. We're going to go into budget, the 2025 actuals and what we're looking at for 2026, which is already, of course, underway. And then we'll talk about the comprehensive plan. And we'll talk about volunteer opportunities as well as volunteer thank yous. And end with our 2026 projects. There are a lot of them, and then have a question and answer session. So there should be plenty of time for us to be able to answer any questions you might have about the town. But if we can't answer a question, we will collect the question and we can get back to you with it. Okay, so first up is Parks and Recreation, and I'm going to welcome Will Glennon to talk. Actually, is Parkland coming up first? Go to your next slide, sorry. Oh, I'm front first, sorry. I used to be third. So I'm very proud that last year, thanks to the PRI Institute, the town board accepted the donation of Smith Woods. And the donation requires going through all the regular legal closings, and so we're in the process of going through that legal closure. We had to do a revised abstract, and anybody who's done real estate transactions will understand all of those processes. So I would imagine that probably second quarter of this year, we're going to be closing on that property, and it'll be officially transferred. The practical reality for visitors there is it's not going to substantively change in your experience. it is locked in by deed about what can and cannot go there. So it's going to be maintained. It's going to continue to be very lightly cared for because it is supposed to be a natural space. The fencing will be taken care of. And right now, there's a wonderful group of Cub Scouts who is plucking some invasive species with Marvin Frey. So that's the kind of high intensity usage that will be continuing there. The Fritz land donation, the town board, this very generous donation, the town board accepted 15 acres last August, and then had to receive through all the legal processes through the planning board and the board of zoning appeals. It required a variance for of 12 feet for the right of way from Cold Springs Road. That process has been approved by the board of zoning appeals. The minor subdivision was approved by the planning board this spring, and now we're working through the closing process. That property will be closed to the public until it can be established in such a way that makes accessibility possible. And when we have things like a functioning driveway, they'll have site plan review, parking, things like that. So until then, it will be cared for by our DPW and it'll be effectively mowed a couple of times a year to make sure that it's not developing into something that we don't want to have to expensively deal with in the future. But it's really just going to be maintained as a landscape that will be closed to the public until we can do some improvements to make it accessible. And then Three Falls State Park, as many of you know, there was an official announcement just a few weeks ago that Camp Barton is becoming Three Falls State Park. And we had the acting administrator for parks come out to make that announcement. There's also a concept plan that we were able to get funded by Parks and Trails New York, and that concept plan is currently available for public viewing. You may have been one of the over 500 people who participated in the survey last year about what you wanted to see for the future of the park, and that information really helps guide the development of the plan. However, it's just a draft concept plan because the state needs to go through probably a 9 to 12 month process to go through environmental review on that plan. And so we'll be keeping it in draft form until then, but that's going to be the document that we're going to need to be able to go after big money. This property is going to need millions and millions of dollars in investment to bring it up to state parks and standards for it. In the meantime, it will continue to be a passive use facility, and I hope you get a chance to enjoy it this summer. It's open right now. So perfect for things like walking your dog, having a picnic, walking around the area. It is full of ticks, so people have to go into anywhere that has brush, but it's just a really beautiful spot. Okay, and last but not least, I just wanted to flag the Habitat Nature Preserve on Sailor Drive. Chris is actually the chair of that committee. And it's a wonderful property to walk on if you haven't had a chance to do it. It's a beautiful site. Definitely take your mosquito spray. I learned the very hard way that I had tick spray and not mosquito spray. And I was not using one that worked for both, and mosquitoes love me. But I was tick free. Okay, and now I'll turn it over to
Excellent. Thank you very much, Caitlin. My name is Will Glennon. I am the Recreation Director. I'm just going to go over a little briefly some of the facts for recreation. It is great that we are having the donations of the land that will help greatly with space moving forward for recreation programs, as well as other use for the members of the community. Briefly on our 2025 data, you can see up on the slide here for the total registrations of the program. This number increased dramatically from the beginning of my tenure, which was about 6 years ago, right as COVID began. And now, as you can see, we're over 1,900 registration for the programs. That includes duplicate registrations or people that register for multiple programs, which many people do. It also includes both youth and adult programming. So the Recreation Department has taken over for adult recreation. So this includes pickleball, volleyball, basketball, and soccer, both indoor and outdoor during the summer. We also help facilitate the driver's education program for the town. So that is run through the Trumansburg Central School District. And in conjunction with us, we help facilitate that program by taking in registrations for the town and then facilitating that whole process. And then it is taught through the school. And then on a yearly basis, we have, as you can see here, for the total youth programs, plus rec development programs as well that will be talked about briefly. So we have a number of different programs that are open to the members of the community each summer. Each year. In the summer, we also have a summer camp program that we have been able to keep the costs very low for our programs, so it's accessible to everybody else. We also have a sliding scale for these programs. We've tried to increase the numbers each year. The programs are popular. They run full day. It includes swimming all summer long for the 6 weeks that we have it. We've also worked in conjunction with other organizations to help us with it. TCAT, for one, helping us with transportation, and along with the Trumansburg Central School District for housing the programs that we have, and also helping with transportation. So here's the number of individuals that register for our programs. So through that 1,900 registrations, as you can see, a little over 700 people have registered for the programs. That's individually. So this starts from as young as entering kindergarten all the way through no age limit for our adult recreation programs. Many people register for different programs throughout the year, and we try to make it open for everyone, although we do have caps as space can be an issue as we move forward. So we cannot just have an unlimited amount, a number, so that people can still enjoy having the programs without being overburdened as far as too many people in a small space. As you can see here, well over half are the youth programs, which at the beginning for recreation was focused mostly on youth recreation programs, but this has expanded to taking over with adult programs. So as you can see, it's fairly balanced as we go for men and women using the programs throughout the year. And this has been an increase. And now these numbers for the amount of people that are using the program have been holding steady now for the last couple of years. And we can move on. For a spring program, so we run programs fall, winter, spring, and summer. So right now, these are the programs that we have moving forward. So these are programs that are through recreation only. There are in the town, for some of you that are well aware, there are a number of programs. So recreation can be a feeder program into other very popular programs that we have in the town run by other organizations. So other organizations that run football, they run soccer, they run other basketball programs. Now we have Little League in the town. We have softball in the town. So these are many programs that the youth and parents can take advantage of by sending their children into these programs. These programs are also in need of space, so the donation of space and the acquisition of space. So for Smith Woods, our cross-country program that runs in the fall, they can utilize that space for running, and then we use the town tennis courts. And then also with the programs, we have many programs that use the facilities. So on outdoor programs, we are using all the facilities at the Trumansburg Central School District. Now, all of these great youth programs that we have all use the school facilities, and the school also uses the facilities. So having an increased accessibility to space is really important for our rec programs and for these other programs to alleviate the space for the school. The school is very generous with their space, but it is limited. So recreation has been a challenge of it has been finding space to be able to utilize for our programs so that we do not have too many competing programs that are using the space at the same time. So if there's a soccer program and a baseball program, and they're all using the same space, we do not want to be kicking soccer balls into the baseball field and hitting baseballs into the softball field. I mean, into the soccer field. So, finding the space that accommodates for everybody is a challenge for the recreation programming and also for these other sports programming. So, space is always something that we're looking for. And then as soon as we can develop that future space, it'll alleviate any crossover. Plus, the school is going to be going through some capital projects of their own to be able to help with their fields, because the use also like hurts the grass and hurts the field. So they have to maintain their fields going throughout. So always looking for extra space for the rec programs. And this is where we are at.
Great, thanks, Will.
Thank you, Will.
Yep.
Rachel. We don't have a pointer. I'm Rachel Kennedy, and I manage the youth services program for the town of Ulysses. One of the things that I do, and I'm just getting started to implement that for the 2026 summer season, is the youth employment program. I'll just read my program goal is to empower first-time and early workers with workforce development skills needed to succeed and stay safe. We connect youth with part-time summer jobs at local businesses and organizations, supporting them through regular check-ins. So my program, the town program, is similar to the county program and the Ithaca YES program, but smaller. I can support about 12 youth to work at local businesses and organizations for about 72 hours over the course of the summer. You can go to the next slide. Last year, I was able to hire 830 hours. And then the list of participating employers is similar this year: Main Street Market, Bet the Farm Winery, Jenny Creek Flowers. Of course, the summer rec camp is a popular one, Scannick State Park, the library, the community nursery school, and a couple of others. The benefit to the employer is that the town covers the wages and the workers' comp benefits, and then the employer will provide sort of a light mentorship for young first-time workers. And it's been successful in that a number of these employers have either hired in a subsequent season or continued hiring youth that I was able to place them with in the end of the summer or in the following year. They are all the students, because they're technically town employees, they're eligible to register for the New York State retirement system. We offer them the New York State required sexual harassment training tailored to a youth audience. And we offer them, I'm available for supports, for troubleshooting, or, whatever support is needed for both the employer and the employee for the whole summer. And I make a lot of great connections with youth and with adults in the community. Next slide.
Rachel, what kind of tasks do they do?
For example, for the winery, Bet the Farm Winery, it would be kids that have expressed an interest in working outdoors in agriculture. They're helping with the summer vineyard task. At the library, last year, and I think every year that I've done this will be my fourth season, we've hired 2 youth to work for the library, and they've helped out Meredith, who does the farmers market program. So they'll be going to read story. I hired 2, 3, I guess now youth to work with the dishwasher, which sounds kind of unpleasant. the overarching goal of this program is to offer youth a substantive way to participate in the civic life of their community. So, one of the projects that was youth initiated was an effort to talk about getting a crosswalk where the Burn Dairy to the ice cream bar, which is kind of a notoriously death-defying jaywalking experience. And so that group did a survey among their peers. They designed a survey, talked to the mayor of Trumansburg, and then presented their collection of data and a little bit of traffic studies to the village board. And I think if someone, and that was as much as we had time for that semester. If we do that again, if the youth wants to pick that up again, maybe that group of youth can help the village negotiate with the State Department of Transportation to talk about how to actually implement that. But they did gather some good data and presented it to a public body, which was a great experience. Right now I'm doing I'm helping to facilitate a mentorship program based on youth feedback, wanting to get more involved in like what some of these systems look like, matching youth up with in pairs up with an adult who is civic or service leader in the community. So food pantry coordinator, library director, or a government leader. This is still a work in progress, but doing some one-on-one conversations and maybe a light work assignment, going to public meetings, doing some volunteer service, touring a facility, that type of thing. And I'll report back to you next year how that went. College tour program. I do about 5 or 6 tours with small groups of students. How much time do I have? I would say technically traveling to local or regional institutions of higher ed, so 2-year and 4-year colleges and public and private, just to give kids a sense of what's out there. Oftentimes kids that may not otherwise be visiting colleges, or maybe their first generation potential college students, and just tours, visiting a dining hall, visiting a dorm, just to give them a sense of what it feels like, and maybe to envision themselves in that space. So when it comes time to think about what's happening after high school, maybe they would add that to their list of potential opportunities. We're doing a theater program with middle school students and an after-school program, which is located. Sometimes it's cooking classes at the school. Sometimes it is. Now we're building. This is also a work in progress. A community space at the Episcopal Church across from the town hall. It's a secular program, and it's a hangout space. It's a space for kids to cook for each other and to watch movies and play games. And there's a basement space, which is lovely for kids to hang out and be themselves, and land after school a couple of times a week. There's another third space for kids to enjoy. And then, some other after school stuff, but next year I'll report about that.
Hey. Do you want, I can click for you. Okay.
I'm just gonna share some clerk's office information. This is Sunny. I was waiting for you to be happy joining us today. Wanted to say hello. So in the clerk's office, these are some of the things that we do: issue marriage licenses, license dogs. There are dog license forms in the back if there happens to be any dogs here who are not licensed. And we issue disabled parking permits, collect taxes for the town and the county, and that keeps us very busy in mostly the month of January. It slows down a little bit in February, which is welcome. And send out a weekly newsletter to about 1280 people. And I'm hoping that if anyone's not on the newsletter, you can sign up on the front table today to receive those weekly. Try to keep them useful and informative. And it kind of leads me to my next slide. Oh, these are also other things that we do: hunting and fishing licenses, FOIL requests, records management, notarizations, except wills, we don't do those, those are a little too intricate. And field lots of interesting and miscellaneous questions. So it's always fun when you answer the phone and someone says, I've got a really odd question for you. We're like, that we this is all of the information that's on the site. Again, we wanna, we're hopefully gonna be updating our website this year, although starting to look like that might get pushed off till next year with all the other things that have come up, but we really try to put as much information out there as we can so that people can access the information at their leisure on their own without having to call someone and make it as easy as possible. If anyone ever has suggestions for other things that we should add, let me know. Next slide, please. So now, I want to share a bunch of, hopefully helpful resources where you can go to find information. I've been feeling lately like it's getting harder and harder to figure out how to get information that is accurate and true. And I just want to push out some helpful things that might make it easier for people. And I always encourage people, I see a lot of inquiries on Facebook, and sometimes it's easy to put your question out to Facebook to the world, but sometimes there are town questions that get responded to not accurately, and I'm always like, please just call us, please just go to the source. So these are source information places that might be, if you're an information gatherer and like to do this kind of thing like I do, might be fun to kind of dig into these. So this is, we have all of our town laws online. You can go in and find when the law was passed, all the nitty-gritty details. You can look up your zoning area you're in and see the regulations and the setbacks. You can also call Neil in the planning office, who knows it pretty well and can tell you quickly. But if it's off hours and you want to find information, you can go in here and find out. We also printed out all this on the back table if you want to take it with you. Next, please. This is these are all links from our website. This is a Laserfiche, and we use this as a repository for all of our permanent records. So we have minutes going back to the 1800s. We have all of our budgets, anything, some historical records or some old census records, town board resolutions, historic buildings inventory, old marriage licenses from over 50 years ago, if you can read the cursive, and all sorts of lots of good things. Next, please. So this is a link to the Tompkins County Clerk's repository of information, and in here you can find deeds and legal documents that are public and have been filed. So it's kind of fun to just go in and put your own name in and see what's there for you or your neighbor. Okay, assessment record. So this is, I use this almost daily at work. This is all public. You don't need to set up a login or anything. You can put in your house number or anybody's house number and pull up pictures and an entire property record, projects that have done on the house. If you're thinking about buying something, or you want to see if the work that got done on your house before you moved in was ever conveyed and done with a building permit, you can find that here. You can find how big the lot is, who the owner is, if you want to send them a letter and say, hey, can I buy the outside lot? Yep. So.
And
that
we
one.
moved to Beacon fairly recently, the county did.
Yeah.
We used to be ImageMate, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
went through that, so this is what's replaced that.
Thank you. This is on the Ulysses Philomathic Library's website. People have gone in and digitized all of the local newspapers, like the Friendsburg Free Press, the Ovid Gazette, from like 1820 up to maybe 2020. And I've had a lot of fun going in and searching for, like, when was my house built and who built it and what was happening during that time. And the other neat thing about all these old newspapers is you can hear about the person who maybe lived in your house and where they went that weekend. If they went to visit their cousin in Pittsburgh, maybe if they went roller skating or had friends over for cards. That was a lot of what was in the local newspapers at that time. Very different than what we have now.
I feel like we need more of that now.
Yeah.
Use that. I like that from here.
Yeah, so I've been able to see that Mrs. I forgot her name, had, you know, the older town clerk over for cards in my house, and, you know, it's kind of fun. History. The New York State Committee on Open Government. They are pretty accessible if you want to send them an email or a call and ask any questions about what the laws are as far as open meetings, freedom of information laws. And they also have, if in these pull downs, if you go to the freedom of information law, they have legal opinions, so questions that have been asked over the years. The written replies are all documented, so you can search like, are building permits foilable? Can I request that information? And it will tell you the legal opinion on that. That's very handy. I use that also.
Sorry.
I think that's kind of it for me. Yeah, if anyone, oh, there's one thing that I forgot to mention on here, and that's, if you dial 211 in Hawkins County, it is, they have, quote, trained empathetic community service specialists that can help you connect you to whatever information you want if you are having a mental health crisis, or if you're just looking for an after-school program, etc. So it's a pretty cool thing that we have around here. So people call just to say hi and thank you. There's fine.
You can do that with the clerk's office too. They also. Thanks. Okay. I'm tackling building planning and zoning, everybody's favorite department. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next slide. Some building highlights, for 2025, 106 permits issued, 85 certificates of occupancy, 20 fire inspections. Last year was a very reflective year of what housing construction looks like in the town. There were 7 new houses constructed last year. And the average cost of that house is over $500,000. We also have 3 new accessory dwelling units. Ulysses has pretty tight zoning on a lot of things. One thing we actually do make much easier to do than many communities do is accessory dwelling unit. So if that is something that you're interested in for your property, if you live in the town outside the village, and it's important to understand this is all outside the village. So the town that is not responsible for land use or building permits inside the village boundaries. But if you're interested in an accessory dwelling unit, they used to be called elder cottages. That is something, please come talk to us about. The 7 houses a year is very, like I said, is very reflective. That's what we've been seeing on average over the last 15 or so years. Tompkins County actually recently came out with a report that the housing goals that the county set in 2017 are being significantly undermet. Housing construction is incredibly expensive. There are things, there are many factors that play into that. And we're seeing that introduced in our town. And some of those 7 houses are also replacement houses. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's truly a brand new home being added to the community. It could be a replacement for a pre-existing one.
Does that include manufactured homes?
It does, yep. Manufactured homes are much easier for us from a code enforcement standpoint or building permit standpoint because they are already achieving a lot of the standards necessary. They've been certified to have already been inspected. And so if you are purchasing a manufactured home, a modular home, that makes it a lot easier and a shorter permitting process than if you're doing, say, a stick frame construction from scratch. The Grassroots Festival had a permit last year. They get a special events permit, and they had a wonderful year of compliance and with no significant violations. That's a very that's a very, time consuming, activity for all the organizers of the festival, of course, but also for all the regulatory folks, from both the town and the county who participate in that process. Next slide, please. We are currently, the town has been in court, now for a couple of years with, two properties. Many of you might have complained to me about some of these properties. But these are, one property on Route 96, one property on Brooks Road. Enforcement on these properties, has been working through the code, has been working through the court system. It is not a fast process. The one property has 39 counts of violations of New York State Fire, property maintenance, and zoning codes. The owner there has been showing good faith progress through the court system. And there's hopeful that they will be in compliance, with the necessary regulation, by the end of this year. The second property, has 35 counts, similar violations, but unfortunately, the court has been going through a process where compliance has not been, happening in the same way as the first case. And there's a court deadline of June of this year, for certain compliance standards to be met. If that doesn't happen, the town has, the ability to take it to a higher court, for further enforcement. And I personally think it's really important that if we're going to have over 200 pages of zoning, and that's what we have, that if we have egregious examples of violation, then it's important to remediate those situations. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the town attempted to do that before my time back in 2015-ish and took to the court and lost. And so I have prioritized making sure that we had a very robust legal case so that when we take it to court, we don't lose. Because it is a lot of money to fight this. But I think it's really important that if you're going to have the rules and you're going to, enforce smaller things that are in the zoning code, you sure as heck should be enforcing the big things.
What court level are you in right now?
We're in the town court, right? That's where you have to start. You have to start at the town court.
Not out of town court yet.
Nope. Next, please. Okay, we are, the town is underpinned in all of our activities by very robust groups of boards and committees. I'm so thankful for all of their time, effort, and work. The Board of Zoning Appeals had 6 meetings last year, and granted 6 variances. The Planning Board had 17 meetings, 5 sketch plats, 4 final review plats, and 4 new lots were created as part of that. There were 7 lot line adjustments that were requested, and 6 of those were approved. They have some key initiatives currently underway. Stream and wetland code amendments, which is now thrown into a complete, if you are a wetlands person, it has now been thrown into complete chaos because New York State did not do their appropriate environmental review, apparently, according to Supreme Court, and now their wetlands regulations have been invalidated. So what this means for all of us is something this just happened this past week. So we're all kind of trying to piece out what that's going to mean at the town level as well. But the town actually has very strong in its zoning setback regulations from streams, wetlands, and other water bodies. And so that's an important part of our code. We're wrapping up towards the end of a comprehensive plan review. There's been a drinking water source protection program that we're waiting on feedback of the draft from the DEC. So however many months that will take. And we are currently working on 2 open area development requests. So next slide. Now this, do not try and attempt to follow this right here. We are in the process of trying to create public information, public education materials that really help property owners and people who are thinking about being property owners in the town understand the process of navigation. Because what it looks like in the town of Ulysses is incredibly different from what it looks like in all of our neighbors except the town of Ithaca. So if you go to Enfield, if you go to Hector, if you go to Covert, it does not look like that. It is a different process to try and do any form of development in Ulysses. And so please spend plenty of time trying to help people navigate that process. And we're hopeful that some clear flow charts or as clear as they can be, because it is a lot of steps potentially to go through. is going to, help make it easier for the public to understand, the necessary steps. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Scott.
My name's Scott Stewart, if you don't know who I am. I'm the highway superintendent plus the DPW supervisor. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, roads inside of the town. So we have town roads, we have, could you just go to the next one, please?
Yep.
Yeah, so we have town roads, so we have 37 miles of town road that we take care of, that's our responsibility. Then we have county roads inside the town. We also have state roads that are in the town. 96, 89, and 227 are the state roads. The county roads I could go on about, but if the easiest way to know if you live on a county road or a town road in our township anyways, is that, if there's markings on your road, then you are probably a state or a county road. If you don't have any markings, what I mean by markings is, white lines or yellow lines. If you don't have any of those, that's probably a town road. So that's the roads. Hold on, sorry. So Tompkins County website is another important thing. If you, I don't have it up here, I'm sorry, but if you go to Tompkins County, go to the highway department, and they have all kinds of information on what their projects are gonna be for this year. I know for a fact that they're gonna pave Crumbs Corner Road. And I know they're gonna chip, a bunch of other roads, but I can't remember which ones they are. But if you go on your website, it's all under there, under the highway department. You'll be able to tell, what projects they're doing. As far as the state goes, I'm not sure. I have no idea.
They haven't been notified yet.
I do know that they're gonna pay 96. Because I don't know if you've seen them out there. But when you drive by in Trumansburg, they're fixing culverts and stuff like that, and catch basins, and so they're getting ready to pave. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but it is gonna happen. Rice Road and Gorge Road is a town road. They're our town roads, and we just recently did a speed study. It was some concerned citizens down there. Triggered a speed study, it has to go to New York State. They approved it, the speed to reduce it. So on Gorge Road and Rice Road, it'll be 35 miles an hour now. We are gonna be putting signs up soon. There's a couple of county roads that are gonna have some reduced speed zones too.
Jackson Road.
Yeah.
Bank Park.
Yes. Those are, I believe are gonna be 35 and 45, I'm not sure.
And Waterford also.
Waterbird's another one, yeah.
That's going down 45.
So, I mean, if you are on a road in the town and there are no posted signs for speed, it's 55. That's the general rule.
So is that reduction of speed? So it's less wear and tear on the road, if you're less speed? See,
Where they take a study, on how it impacts pedestrians and bicyclists and, the activity around here, because it's near the park, so I think they had a lot to do with it. I'm not really sure what all they study, but the New York State comes out and they do a pretty good study before they make the determination. Yeah, we also mow, we have 4 abandoned cemeteries. And we do mow all those, take care of those. We have a couple of other properties that we take care of. We do mow down Three Falls State Park. Next slide, please. These are the things that I'm working on this year. So on Lower Agard Road, we're replacing 2 culverts. Willow Creek, 2 culverts, Curry Road, 1. They're all small culverts. Mayo Road, we are repaving and reshouldering. Upper Agard, Brook Road, White Hill, Honeybee, and Cold Springs, we're gonna seal those roads. So we just paved them not too long ago, so now we're gonna seal them. Next slide. Oh,
That was the name. That is the real work. Oh, did you want to say something about, the county plowing? Can you-
I can.
That would be good, because I answer lots of those questions.
So when I say that there's different roads in our township, there's town roads, county and state. Everybody has their own jurisdiction for those roads. But in the past, we were, we had a contract with the county to do their snow and ice control. And it was a 3-year contract, and it came up, last year. And we had to renew it. And we were in talks with the county and everything, but the county decided they wanted to just take it over, and do it themselves, which is fine with me. If you live on a county road, then Tompkins County is doing the roads now as far as snow and ice. So I don't know if you've seen a difference, but, if you have, give it a little bit more time, because it's, like the first year is gonna be difficult. And now I know where you live, like the bridge, they can't cross it with it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and then hold on roads, obviously, so that's why I say have at it. So the county's doing that, and for the foreseeable future. So I'm not really sure if they're gonna take them over now, but I'd rather not.
So is Podunk Road a town road?
No, that's county.
Oh, so their bridge.
That's their bridge, yeah.
Is there a timeline?
I can tell you more about that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, unless you want to do it. I don't think Rachel, Rachel's right here. Rachel is our county legislator. And so if you want to talk to her about county issues, put her on the side. Podunk, this was one of the situations that I saw emerge on Facebook, and I do not actively participate in public forums, in part because I don't think it's a really productive venue, to be perfectly honest, for civil dialogue, and I really want to model civil dialogue. But I did see a post about the siren alert when that bridge shut down, and I did step into the conversation because I think it's really important to understand. It's not clear, right? You drive over a bridge, there's no sign that says, hey, this is a county bridge, or this is a whatever bridge. So for fun facts, there will never be on any trivia you're in unless I'm running trivia at Atlas, which is one of the dreams. So just putting that is that villages are not allowed to own bridges in New York State, because that should be a rule, right? And most bridges in New York are owned at the county level. Now, this is outside big cities. We're not talking downstate. We're talking upstate. Those bridges are owned by counties. And so, the Podunk one is on a county road. It's a county-owned bridge. They received money back in 2021, a state allocation to replace it. But at some point and I say this as a deep lover of history and historic preservation by training. I teach historic preservation. I love historic resources. But at some point, somebody designated a historic resource, and the only way they could remove the bridge is if they sold it to somebody else who was going to use it in the exact same way, which is hard to do, right? So there's been some delays. There's been a lot of work with DOT, and the long and the short is we're being told it's going to be at least out through the end of 2027. The county found out the exact same time the rest of us did, 30 minutes earlier. That the state came in and shut it down, fully shut it down. And based on what I've heard of the condition of the bridge, we should all be grateful it was shut down, to be perfectly honest, because nobody should have been driving over it. And so I'm grateful it was flagged and shut down before there was an accident into the creek and the impact to human life. So unfortunately, that is a no-go bridge for a while. But we in the town, I'm gonna get into the grant project. Okay. In the town, would you mind moving through? We have been really emphasizing for the last several years, driving revenue into the town, in the form of grants in order to replace incredibly dilapidated culverts and bridges in our community. And, this is not an easy thing to tackle, but we have raised over $3 million, in just a few years, to start tackling big projects. Would you go to the next one, please? The Curry Road Bridge, we received, $1.5 million. We have, through Bridge New York funding, that is an incredibly important, bridge. If you live in that part of the town and have anything to do with agriculture, that's a really important resource to make sure that we don't have, we're not sending our farmers on long trips, on state highways, to access our fields. We did have an engineer recently come out just in the last 2 weeks, to look at it, to make sure that it was still, didn't need to be flagged, the weight limit didn't need to be lowered. So it has been inspected recently. It is still safe to use, without any, reduction in weight. But we're in a multi-year process of trying to get the final design through DOT. They've been sitting on our final tweaks to our final design since October. And we've been chirping and chirping and chirping. The goal is to have it out to bid this fall so that we can do the replacement, next summer. Maplewood Culvert, we got 895,000 roughly, to do that one. That was, recently surveyed like within the last month. And so they're going into initial design. We will be having a public meeting, when that design is completed. So it's a public information session. The engineers will come out. We'll do it at town hall. You can actually look at the design and, if you know, answer any questions that you might have. These two are both, just one more back up. You go back to, these both are fully reimbursable projects if you stay within the cost amount that they gave you. Now, think about that though, if you got a grant like 3 years ago and you've been trying to get, even though you worked through the process and you're now sitting waiting with DOT, price tags are going up. So, you know, this is what in addition to what I'll get into with the budget, this is really where my thoughts really lie, is on trying to get these resources fixed, because it's not a question if we replace it, it's a question we have to replace it. And so, trying to move these along in a way that allows us to actually use the grant resources we have. So, it's coming out of your state tax dollars and not your town tax dollars. Okay, next, please. We have been very, very fortunate in our application to a program called Water Quality Improvement Project. This is the QUIP grant through the Department of Environmental Conservation. Back in 2024, yes, I think that's right. Yes, in 2024, we received a grant to do a study. It was an engineering study, and they picked our 6 worst culverts and to assess and do preliminary work on. And that is necessary in this particular grant program, in order to start applying for money to do repairs or replacement. So in 2024, we got money, we did the study, and then we started, you know, applying for money to fix them. Garrett Road was deemed our very worst of the 6. And so we started with Garrett Road. We've received $520,000. This is a 75% one, so we're gonna have to do a 25% match on that. Agard Road, we received in the next year, and that's $855,000, so just shy of $856,000. And that grant was awarded in January, just a couple of months ago. We don't have a contract for it or anything like that, but later this month, we will be going out for requests for qualifications for engineering services to do the design and oversee construction on these 2 projects. So hopefully, you know, 2027 is most likely going to be the Curry Road Bridge. 2028 is hopefully going to be the Maplewood Culvert, and then 2028 to 2029 is going to most likely be these 2 projects. We have also applied. The next one up on the bad culvert list, naughty culverts, and these are culverts where things are literally falling out. Like you just don't want that to happen. So if you live in the Reynolds Road, Podunk area, the next culvert up that we're going to be applying for is the culvert near that intersection. And that has been one that the water levels in heavy rain events, which it seems to be the only kind of rain we get these days, the water levels are creeping up, and these culverts need to be replaced because, and Scott could obviously show you a lot better than I can, but water washing over roads over and over again causes not good, not good. Yeah. So we'd like to not have happen in Ulysses what has happened in our neighboring communities. When I joined the town board in 2020, it was not far off the heels of major washouts, right, in Covert and Lodi. That's when we had some horrible storms and roads washed out, there were road closures. Lots of, roads washing out is bad for everybody. And so starting in that year, we started setting money aside in a road fund that we actually, if there's an emergency, we have money readily available in our reserves to be able to deal with repairs quickly. Without having to go into other pots of money, because the reality is we have to be sustainable in our ability to solve these problems and keep our roads open. And we just had a bad storm, right? Last week. And Scott's crew was out. I checked in with him. I said, how are the roads doing? He said, we have a couple of culverts to clean out, but everything will be done by me. And then you go into other towns and they have roads that are closed due to flooding. The DPW, I think, does a very phenomenal good job keeping us safe to the best of their ability. We want to thank you. And we want to give them some better infrastructure to work with. So, okay, let's keep going. You want to do this one? Perfect.
So not only do we take care of roads, we also have a water district in our township. It basically is around Jacksonville area. Years ago, there was a gas leak in Jacksonville, and this is how they were able to get water. They got a grant, I'm assuming. But anyways, we have 250 customers on that water system. We do testing daily, monthly, quarterly. If you want to go to the website, our website, Town of Ulysses, you can look at the water quality report. We have to put one out every year. It's not a very big water district, and I wish it was bigger. But nonetheless, we have to take care of it, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job. We haven't had any issues, so that's all. Bad one. Yeah, so the capital plan. So the capital plan, when I first started, there wasn't really much of one. So in the last 10 years, I've been working on the capital plan with our bookkeeper and Caitlin and everyone. And it's a yearly thing. You got to check it every year. But what I can say is that since I have taken over, I've been working with the town board with getting better equipment, and I can't say anything bad about the town board. Everything that I bring to them, they don't say yes right away. They're willing to listen to me from me, and they want to help. So I can't ask for anything better. This town board is great. And I have a good working relationship with them, where a lot of townships, you don't have that with the highway super. So that's one thing that I'm proud of, is to work with the town board. As far as general operations at the town of Wolf Barton, we have 5 people, including myself, so there's 4 employees, and that's quite a bit of stuff for us to do with just 4 employees. But we manage. I do a lot of work too. I do sweep the floors and so on. So half of the year we are 5 days a week for 8 hours. And then when the weather gets better, we do our 410. And the reason why we do that, I know it sounds bad that we're not here on Friday, but we like to, so after lunch, let's say, if it's 12:30, and we are on an 8-hour workday, we're done at 2:30. So we don't really, we can do stuff in the afternoon, don't get me wrong, but big projects with a 10-hour day is so much better. Because we can just work until 4:30 and just, we just get a lot more done. I know it doesn't seem that way, but it really does make a big difference. And we don't really have to, unfortunately, we haven't had really bad weather. So we're not coming in on a Friday, you know, I don't think we've ever came in on a Friday since we started the tennis. Because that was a big worry, you know, like overtime and everything, but the other thing with overtime with me is, even though we do have a union, I was able to negotiate with the union and my guys. So if we do work late, a lot of times we will just flex time. We don't have overtime, and I've cut down on overtime, I mean, a lot, like a lot. So, and we still get the job done. So, I think just, I'm done.
God is a very, very financial conscious, I always refer that I'm grateful to work with them. Cersei was jealous, the versus Cat got to make, Karen, so Cersei has not Karen here. And they say gray cats are probably, if they were in charge of something, would be very like appropriate, reasonable, and very capable, and orange cats are really quite dumb, and black cats on that category. So hopefully the budget presentation doesn't feel similarly to that. Next slide, please. Okay, if you didn't eat sugar before, please help yourself now. Kathy, you keep it going. The town, the state of the town budget is really healthy. So that's what I'd like to lead with. And it's because we've had a lot of prudent financial decision-making over many years, not just under the current administration. And we are constantly looking for ways to appropriately save money while also providing high quality services and adjusting to the realities of needing to make sure that we are fulfilling the things the community that they wanted. And so in town reserve funds, this is a question I actually get surprisingly often. People are worried that we are saving money to make sure that we can take care of things in the future, and we absolutely are. In 2025, we increased our reserve funds by $173,000. This was $37,000 more than was initially estimated for the year. And this is largely coming because of planned additions to reserve plus investment income. So there are ways for municipalities under New York state law to invest funds, a very limited one. And they have to be incredibly secure because you can't lose any town money. You can't lose taxpayer money. But we have been able to invest. So even though the economy has been challenging over the last several years, the fact that our investments of money, just the reserves sitting in investments have produced extra revenue, which we are able to put into the town. And then our unappropriated fund balance. So unappropriated for those in town lingo, we have different categories of money as is written on paper. Okay, we have reserves, and those are our dedicated reserves. So if we put money in for bridge maintenance, it can only be used for bridge. Those are reserves. Then we have unappropriated fund balance. And well, let me back up. You have your reserves. Then you have your budget for the year, right? We adopted a budget for 2026, and it says we're going to spend X number of dollars on salt for the road, X number of dollars for employees in the different components, right? And that's all money that we have, planned for to spend, and revenue that's going to come in to offset those expenditures. And then we have, it's not a savings account because you're not allowed to have a savings account if you're a municipality, but we have unappropriated fund balance, which is leftover money, leftover revenue that has not been assigned to a specific thing. And it's really important to have a fund balance that's unappropriated, because this is what you use in local government and budget to smooth over unexpected things, because unexpected things happen. The only revenue we know we're going to get is property tax. Everything else we don't know for sure what we get, right? We rely on sales tax. We're not in charge of how much sales tax revenue we get. That's a broader issue in the county, right, of how much sales taxes revenue is generated. And then what portion we get. Mortgage tax revenue. We have no guarantee of how many properties are gonna sell with mortgages or if people are gonna refinance mortgages in any given year. And it's very difficult to predict what that's going to look like. So, and then, things like COVID happen. And you have to keep everything going with unexpected things like building permits not happening. Or other fees that we use as revenue not happening because projects aren't happening. So the fund balance is important to have. And a few years ago, we developed a fund balance policy that tells us the ballpark that we're supposed to be in to make sure that we have sufficient fund balance, but not so much fund balance. If you have too much fund balance, you're doing a bad job budgeting and you're taking too much money out of people's pockets in property tax. And we don't want to do that either. So we're trying to navigate that. Next slide, please. Okay. The general town-wide fund is the A fund. So if you are a resident of either the town outside the village or the town inside the village, you're paying into the A fund. That's where your property taxes are going. And the town-wide A fund is not only fed by property taxes, that is one thing that is fed by. But in 2025, we exceeded revenue by approximately 9%. And the largest contributors to this were mortgage tax, sales tax, and court fees. Again, none of which, right, if crime completely stopped, if nobody got a traffic ticket, we would still pay our judge, we would still pay our court clerk, and we wouldn't have any revenue, right? So these are fees, or these are revenue sources that are important, but not ones we can always perfectly estimate. And then Park Town B Fund. B Fund does not collect property taxes. So this is only funded by all those other things. And we did have some higher revenues and we underspent. We try to save money where we can, resulting in surplus. And the largest contributors to this were building permits and sales tax. The biggest building permit contributor was in fact the Carter project on 227. They ended up having to extend into another year of their building permit. And so that was money we didn't anticipate having to have because they were behind on construction, and so they had to renew their building permit. And then sales tax again, fluctuations. We put some sales tax revenue into our B fund. Next slide. Highway funds. This is all the money that Scott's using. And we were able to put some additional sales tax revenue in there that was higher. Snow costs for removal were lower. We had a winter last year, not this past winter, but the previous winter that didn't have as much snow as that we typically get on average. And then we used less of our CHIPS funding. New York State pushes out highway money. This is what pays for microplaning and repaving and things like that. We used less of that money than expected in 2025. But the good news about that is we don't lose it. It's functionally within a savings account at a state level. So we get to continue using it moving forward. And then ambulance billing. Our revenue exceeded expectations, in part because we got like a bunch of months at the very end of the year and we didn't have that money when we were budgeting. The town is contracted with the village for ambulance services. And our revenue that comes back when somebody uses ambulance services through the billing company that the village contracts with, they changed providers. And so starting in 2025, we had a new provider. So going into our next budget cycle, having been with that provider for about 2.5 years when we go to budget for 2027, we're going to have a much better idea of revenue consistency based on that. And part of the reason I know the village switched providers for billing was because they were not satisfied with the process of working with the previous one. And so there was a desire to see if a different firm would be better at capturing that revenue. And that's revenue that's primarily coming through reimbursements from insurance companies and Medicare. Water District 3 had some modest revenue excesses from interest and fees. And but that's a really tight budget. We really try to not put more on that budget than the property owners who pay into the water district can manage. And a lot of the changes and fluctuation is water usage, right? If you use more water, you pay more water, so expenses go up and revenue goes up. But we were able to save money in both legal and engineering services last year. Next, please. Major highlights, I'm not gonna read through all of it, but we are consistently trying to put money in our highest expenditure line items that we have as a revenue. That's legal costs and engineering. And so we're always trying to get a good deal. We are also trying to not use legal services unnecessarily. So that being said, I mentioned our court cases. Sometimes you need to pay an attorney if you want to be successful in winning something. If you're going to go in on a project, I want to make sure it's done professionally and it's completed effectively. And so but those, quite honestly, I mean, nobody at the town hall or the highway department is making $300 an hour, right? So if you're going to pay for that kind of legal assistance, you darn well should be doing it very judiciously. So we're really trying to keep that under control. And then, as I mentioned, Scott works really hard to constantly looking for ways to tweak his process, tweak procedures to save money. And that has been happening. And it's really great to have a highway superintendent who is willing to work so closely in partnership. One of the impacts of no longer doing county roads is we will no longer need to buy a second other vehicle. We were gonna have to replace a vehicle that was gonna be to the tune of about $350,000-$400,000. We no longer have to do that. That's going to be a huge saving for the town capital plan overall. Next, please. Okay, this was, we have handouts for this also, I believe. This is, if you got a property tax bill for us, this was in that narrative that we circulated when the bills came out in late December. But what I really want to show is the fact that please raise your hand if you live in the town outside the village. Okay. 43% overall of our tax revenue exclusively goes for fire and EMS services. That's how much of the town's budget with taxation is fire and EMS. That is a huge percentage. We are, it was about $573,000 was our town tax bill for fire EMS for town outside village. You're a village resident, you're paying those property taxes, you're paying those fees as part of your village tax money. We are not charging, the town is not charging for fire EMS. But if you are a town outside village resident, we are charging. That's where a huge percentage of your tax bill is going, is to pay for those services. The EMS billing is coming in about $283,000 for 2026. So that's a lot of money. We write some very large checks in February every month. And this is an issue that is very fundamental to my concern about the viability long-term of rural communities and their property taxes, because I know with lived experience, right, the property taxes really impact one's ability to live in our community. New York State is the highest burdened tax state in the nation. And it is a situation where New York State, as a state, has said fire is an essential service. And no disagreement. You're never going to disagree with me that fire is an essential service. You have to pay for it. Essential services have to be paid for. But for some frustrating reason, New York State has not determined that ambulance services are essential service. And that, in fact, is ludicrous. It is completely, abysmally wrong. And we are in a situation, we're in crisis, quite honestly. And I've been grateful for the county to be a developing partner with the local governments in the county, because now we do have a rapid response vehicle that is able to go out Monday through Friday. You hope you don't need them on the weekend or at night. But it is helping defray costs, because unfortunately we're now in a situation where Ulysses taxpayers, whether you pay in the village or the town, are paying a lot of money to maintain an excellent emergency services Our EMS crew is fantastic. But our neighbors are not necessarily doing the same thing because for whatever reason, they're not able to. And it really bothers me that we're looking at response times in the town of Enfield that are 20+ minutes. And if you're injured in the town of Ulysses, it's much sooner than that in response time. But with mutual aid agreements, our ambulances do get called out to serve outside our district. And what that means is if an ambulance is outside our district, it may not be able to get to you fast. And I want my Enfield neighbors to have ambulance service. I deeply want them to have that. I also deeply want the town of Ulysses residents to have ambulance service. And I hate to pick on Enfield because really the big user is the city of Ithaca. And city of Ithaca residents pay $0 in taxes for ambulance service. $0. Oh. It's not fair. We're a model that is fundamentally broken. And I'm very proud to be working with the mayor of Trumansburg to continue to advocate that this is a system that is non-functional. And what I personally would like to see is I would like to see the county take over ambulance services in terms of responsibility in the same way that the sheriff's department functions. Yeah. We're too small to all do this independently, and it's grossly unfair. So I will continue. The town board has sent letters of support for this. We are continuing to do what we can to pressure elected officials at the state level to recognize this. And the governor could have signed because it passed the legislature, could have signed bills that would have recognized emergency services as essential. It could have signed bills that would have found ways to help fund or push counties to start considering this at a countywide level. And to date, that has not happened for the last past legislative session. And so it's going to require future sessions to continue to push this. But if you care about your loved one or yourself having an ambulance when you need it, as you should, we need help because this cost is going up for your pocketbook to the tune of 6 to 11% on an annual basis. That is pushing tremendous pressure on town budget. There's only so much I can do. I can, and we have adjusted recreation fees, right? We've adjusted recreation fees, so recreation programming basically pays for itself in the town of Ulysses. I can't do that with ambulances, right? We really are in a system where we're very fortunate to have a great fire department. We're fortunate to have a great EMS crew, but we're unusual and we're subsidizing a lot of people. And I have a huge problem with that. Yes, Cynthia.
So what would you like us to do, the residents? Contact the governor, contact the county?
I would contact all your state representatives and I would also contact the governor. I mean, we're doing those things also. But this is coming right out of your pocketbook, right? And I work really hard to try and keep your tax rate from not exceeding the tax cap. And our tax cap means that we're trying to not increase the town budget on the taxpayer by more than 2 to 3% a year. That's really hard to do when you're seeing escalating emergency services costs, 43% of our budget, right? To the tune of 6 to 11%. Plus, health insurance premiums went up 24% last year. And, we're seeing the impacts of what just natural growth in wages needs to be to keep pace so that people stay in their job. And nobody who works for the town is getting rich working for the town. It's not that kind of position. So I will continue to do everything I can to advocate and to keep these numbers as reasonable as possible, but quite simply without state assistance, pushing the counties to be a leader in this. And again, Tompkins County is doing better than most counties, but we need more. And so that's my soapbox for today. I think we could probably push through the rest. Yeah, 43%. We keep on going. And then I'm going to pass it off to Liz.
Before that, you mentioned EMS was 283, but what's the fire component?
Fire came in, I think it was the EMS, I think was 287, and fire was about 573, roughly in that ballpark.
We have a couple of slides on the comp plan. I'm gonna try to go through them quickly, but I'll talk to them, but these are online, so you guys can look at all the details. But right now, we have the the current comprehensive plan that the planning board, the town board, and the zoning board of appeals uses, at decisions is from 2009. And it is recommended that comprehensive plans are looked at annually or every 5 years, but updated every 10 years. In 2022, with the help of Roxanne and a lot of other people, we received a grant from the Climate Smart Communities Grant Program. I write that down for number. To update our comprehensive plan, to include more, local issues, but also issues really dealing with climate change that weren't around in 2009. Changes in storm events, sustainability, community character, things that were probably thought about in 2009, but weren't a big thing. But by 2020 is a big thing, especially dealing with COVID and going through that, looking at the impacts of all the people. So we received the grant in 2022. And in 2023, I think if you want to go to the next slide and then I can come back. Yeah, so 2023, we had our first steering committee meeting. The town board in late of 2022 initiated the comprehensive steering committee. I believe there was 3 or 4 people. I was on the board at the time. 3 or 4 people that were recommended to the steering committee. We had our first official meeting in April 2023. So this committee, serving mostly of 11 to 12 people, give or take, depending on where we are in the process, have been working very hard for the last 3 years, coming up with this document. Comprehensive plan, just to step back a minute, is a vision. It's a community vision for what the town is going to look like in the next 15, 20 years. So it's really looking at, how the town is going to make decisions to focus on protecting rural and agricultural character, promoting smart residential and commercial business growth in the town, looking at how to come up with ways to protect the town and the residents from climate change issues, storm event issues, protecting our rural character, and preserving our natural resources, including all the parks and so forth that we have access to Gannett Park. So we had 40 meetings and workshops over the last 3 years. I've seen a lot I've seen a lot of you here, and I know that there were a lot of comments we received. We had 3 public open houses, one at the school, one down at Rackers in the spring or summer of 2025, and then one in town hall in the fall of 2025. Since September of 2025, we've had 12 public hearings. And there have been 3 drafts of the document. Most recent was updated last week. And you can get that on the Ulysses United website. Grab a cup of coffee. It's 268 pages, just the text. And then there's about 280 pages of appendices. So set your time aside for it. If you want a quick dirty view of it, the first 10 pages is an executive summary that provides a great summary of what is in the rest of the document, including the goals of each of the different characters. Yeah.
And the comprehensive plan is purely advisory, correct?
Correct. So it's not a mandatory document in New York State, but it's a recommended document that helps decisions at the planning board, the zoning board, and town board, to see when they're approached for the project, how does that fit into what the community wants in the town?
You know, COVID had to put one in place quickly in order to unlock some state funding.
Yeah.
So that's a vehicle for that.
It is definitely, so one of the things that the town board is looking to do in the next couple of years is update the zoning code. And in order to get funding that's available through the state to do that, so they're not just using taxpayers' money, this comprehensive plan is required as a first step to that. It also can get money for housing studies,
get more money for erosion studies and the hydraulic studies in the town. So it sets up the town in a good spot to get additional money that's available. Mostly at the state, the federal government, not so much, but the state government, we can get some money in.
Someone's gonna get it, it might as well be us.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so we're trying to do, where I think if you wanna go back. Nope, or, nope. Alright. So. 3 years we've been working on this. Last meeting, on March 25th, the steering committee. It was recommended that the draft were turned over to the town board. So as of March 25th, the comprehensive steering committee is resolved, and the town board is gonna be taking it up. So what that means is the town board, I think at our next meeting, next week, is going to start, the seeker review, that's the environmental review, to ensure that we're looking at we're taking a look at potential environmental impacts from the comprehensive plan. We're going to be still continuing public comment period. So just because the steering committee is done with that work, the town board, until we officially adopt the plan, will accept comments, written comments, verbal comments. You're welcome to come to our meetings and provide comment. We will have to have additional public hearings once we get through the secret process, and as part of the secret process. Those will probably be in the May, June timeframe. So please subscribe to the newsletter and find out when that public hearing is, and we'd love to hear from people during that. And then we are looking potentially, depending on like how the comments come in, could be looking at adopting the plan maybe at the end of June, July. That would set us up for the consolidated fund approval or applications that are due in July. So if we can get this through without rushing, we don't want to rush the process. This is an important document for the town and the people who live here and who are going to live here in the next 20 years. So we're not rushing it, but if we are able to get some of that funding this year, then we can just start doing some of the implementations of what the recommendations in the top plan are sooner than later. If we want to take a credit and take advantage of that stuff and the funding that's available. Next slide. So this is some significant dates. I kind of talked through them, but I didn't want to go through each line. But this is the steering committee that we've had. I was grateful to serve as vice chair through the process, and we've had representatives from the community. We had our chair was from the Jacksonville area. We've had members from the planning board support as part of the comprehensive steering committee. We've had community members who represented businesses, agriculture, lakeshore community areas, the Board of Zoning Appeals. We had two representatives, well, one town. She was an alternate for a little bit. So it has been a wide variety. Hopefully we've gotten a good representation of the different areas of the town and the different communities that are in the town. But we're not done yet, so please provide comments. And everything is on again, Ulysses United website, so it's ulyssesunited.com. There's a link on our town website as well, it's .org or .org.
So that you can go through our website to get to it. We have a landing page just for the conference.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have a really big party when this is over?
I think that's the startup for the next one.
Yeah. We probably should, but I don't want to.
Or creative party for him.
Just seeing the document, how it's come together from the first draft that we saw last summer to now, it's been a huge improvement. We've had a lot of great discussions on different aspects, from where residential development could, like where there are opportunities for residential development and how to protect agriculture and balance those out. So always a balancing act, and I think the steering committee did an amazing job, with that task of trying to take what the community wants for the next 20 years and make sure it's something that can be sustainable, both from an environmental perspective, but also ensuring that the town itself is here in 20 years. It doesn't disappear like some other rural would take it. So, happy to answer any other questions, but I think that's, you're going next?
I'm just going, yeah, we're almost the Q and A, so if you don't mind holding just a quick sec, I just wanna. Thank you. I just wanna say, a very broad thank you to, all the folks who volunteer, with the town in either volunteer capacity or serving as public officials, our planning board or board of zoning appeals. We have some committee chairs here, and we're always looking for more members. We have, some open positions also. And I wanted to, Roxanne is the chair of our, Conservation Sustainability Committee Advisory Committee, right? Did I get it right? I haven't called you that, yeah. I was thinking about what that acronym was. Roxanne's here, she has some information out here. Mary Bouchard runs the most popular town committee in our beat. Every other committee, and it's a very happy place to serve. It's always happy to serve and getting more to DCA. But we have, Carl, where's Carl? Carl, what do you have? He went to left. Carl is, the chair of the planning board. Steve Morreale is the chair of our board of zoning appeals. We also have a youth commission, that, both Steve and Liz serve on. Paul Pettit from the school is the chair of that one. But we have a bunch of information up here. If you're interested in getting more involved with the town, please do so. And I just want to say, thank you very much. The picture before was a tree planting. And we will be celebrating Arbor Day. We also have a tree committee that Andy Hellman is the chair of. And Arbor Day in Ulysses will be April 24th. We'll do a proclamation of the town board meeting and hopefully get another tree planted. So, thanks. You go to the next slide. We have open positions, like I mentioned, on this. If you go to the next slide, yeah, we have open positions. We have 2 alternates for the Board of Zoning Appeals, 1 member, 2 alternates for Planning Board. We have a spot open as a town representative on the Youth Commission. That's a 1-year. Town historian position is open. The first 3 these are all appointed by the town board. Collectively, I get very little discretionary powers, but one happens to be appointing the town historian, so I've been in conversations with several folks about doing that. And so we've had a period open. We wanted to, for applications, we've been collecting applications. We wanted to get on the other side of the state of the town in order to make sure that we had distributed it and anybody who was interested had a chance to apply.
There are applications on the back table there, if anyone's interested.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And I am not going to read all of these to you, but I like to say that we're a town that's punching above our weight class. There are lots of small towns who really don't do much, right? And they just functionally don't. They keep the roads plowed. You can get your marriage certificate, and that might be basically all that happens at that town level. That's not Ulysses. That hasn't been Ulysses for a long time. We have a solar installation that's going to happen at the town barn this year, and we're going through the hiring process for that service. That was grant funded. Roxanne was important in helping do that. We're going to be updating the capital plan. The season starts in July for us, so that's a very time consuming process. We've got more grant applications in. We put in a grant application, as I mentioned, for Reynolds Road, where we will be putting one in for Reynolds Road. We are hoping that Bridge New York funding opens up again and we can go after the Curry Road double culvert, which is really cool and also terrifying apparently if you get underneath it. It's not going to collapse, I didn't mean it that way, but it's just really easy to repair. We have, as Rachel mentioned, we have a brand new space opening up in partnership with the Episcopal Church, which is really, really generous. So it's really going to be a community space for both youth and adults. We're finalizing the lease arrangements on that. we'll be able to do programming there. Starting in the fall, we're gonna start non-sport adult recreation opportunities. I personally want a mahjong group, so if anybody else wants to let's talk, seriously, I think the clicking sounds of those tiles just like soothe my soul. So, something like that, but we want to get a more adult activities, there's been a desire for more adult activities that are not sport. Because winters are long, and we want to get together and build more community. We're hoping to finalize the comp plan, redesign the town website. And we have a lot of other things too. One of the things that I committed to was wanting to make town hall accessible. It's not currently ADA accessible. Well, the doorway to not be opened easily by someone who needs a little bit of help, right? And so we'll be going through an engineering process to try and make the rear entrance, which is next to our handicap accessible spaces, to have a push button so we can open up the back of the town hall so that it can be easier for people to navigate a public facility that everybody should be able to easily get into. And so those are just a handful. If you'd like to talk to me more about all the huge range of things we've got going on, I bet you can tell I'm always happy to chat about what we're doing. So. And now, this is our third cat. This is Tourette's cat. Which cat is this? Bitty girl. This is Bitty girl. Okay, got it. Now we've been answering questions, but I wanted to open it up. Will is not here for recreation, but if you have questions about recreation that I can't answer, I will collect them and make sure that they get answered. And if it's other staff answering questions that aren't here, we can get those collected and also make sure you get answers. But does anybody have any questions that didn't get answered? Yes, sir.
There was a lot of love shown for Scott, well deserved, but I have some concerns rather than questions. Besides the town highway responsibilities, which he has taken on the abandoned cemeteries, which have been longstanding, and he also has the water district. But the town has taken on responsibility in the last couple of years that hasn't really come to fruition yet. Eventually will fall on his shoulder on the highway department. You got Smith Woods, the fencing and pathways through Smith Woods, the care and feeding needed there. You're developing a town park, which will have a lot of care and feeding as far as mowing, pathways, general maintenance. And now the town is involved with the Three Falls State Park responsibility. Again, a lot of care and feeding with pathways, mowing is a big thing. And so his department, I shouldn't say the town's Department of Public Works, is there a plan in place as these responsibilities come to fruition as far as the town park or the Three Falls? Smith Woods is not a big player, I'm sure, but the other two are. And it seems like he's already stretched, or his department is already stretched with some auxiliary responsibilities with water and cemeteries. And now he is being positioned to have to take care of additional town park, state park, and Smith Woods. Is there a master plan in place where this is all going to happen?
I think that, we have talked about this in years past, and that's why we became a DPW. And not just the highway.
Understood.
And yeah, once we get to the point where we know what we're doing with all these parks and stuff, we're probably gonna have to hire some seasonal people to do that kind of stuff. Not full-time, but just seasonal workers, yeah. But as of right now, it hasn't really affected us because nothing is really happening yet. So once it does, yes, we're gonna have to hire some.
So you're gonna have to start mowing Three Falls.
Well, so I think let's clarify
That could be
that.
a contract.
Right, so let me just back up. First off, the town's been taking care of the cemeteries for a long time.
Yes.
So that's like 50 years.
Yeah.
So that's not a new
And the same
thing.
with the water.
The town has also been taking care of so Smith Woods, we're not allowed to go in and just trim trees. That's not gonna ever happen anyway.
No.
The town has already been taking care of Smith Woods for all the trees in the public right of way. So like when branches are overhanging that are dangerous, that town's been doing that for,
Yeah.
for as long as the town in Smith Woods have had a public right of way, which has been a long time. So, those activities haven't substantively changed. Smith Woods, I think will continue to be maintained internally in similar ways to how it has been doing. Marvin Fritz has basically been leading the volunteer crew for PRI at Smith Woods and has indicated his desire to continue to do that. So like I mentioned, the Cub Scouts, coming in and doing invasive, species control. It's a very lightly maintained space. There will need to be some fencing there. Fortunately, we have guys who can do that quite easily as opposed to paying a contractor thousands of dollars to do it. It's cheaper to do it. So those are fair concerns. I think though it's really important. So when he mentioned mowing at Three Falls, that is a choice on our part if we choose to do it, and we are reimbursed by Three Falls. That is not just Ulysses taxpayer paying the bill to go mow at Three Falls. The village has done mowing there. The town has done mowing there. Covert might do mowing there. The reason we did it last year is because the state opened it up very late in the season to try and get an outside contractor to do it. Outside contractors cost more, and between the three municipalities, they have really good coordination. And was like, okay, well, we have flexibility in our schedule. We actually bill Three Falls. The town bills Three Falls and is reimbursed for the cost of doing it. So that's only if it's sustainable for the town. The town isn't gonna hire a seasonal worker just to go mow, Three Falls. It doesn't make sense in our budget. There's nothing that prohibits us from saying, yeah, that's not something we can do. And at this juncture, Scott has estimated that it's gonna cost the town, or it's gonna require mowing at the Fritz Park donation. It's gonna take about twice a year of mowing just to keep brush hogging it to make sure that it's not going from a former cornfield into, the wild and craziness weeds that we don't want to have happen. But sustainability of planning is really important. And I've said this from the get-go, right? You can design a park. Parks come in all various shapes and sizes, and how much you design, how heavy your design is, will trigger how much maintenance is required of it. A wildflower meadow component does not require the same thing as maintaining a baseball field. It's just the fact. Right? It doesn't mean that they both don't require maintenance, but the level of maintenance. And so it will be necessary for the town to develop a sustainable plan for a design for that park that takes into consideration the maintenance cost, right? But also there's opportunities for revenue generation also with spaces like that. And so like we've done with recreation, right? When we started the recreation program at the town, and Nancy Zaylor helped, and Ben Carver and Ben Darfler and all the folks who were part of the village at the time to move it over to the town, right? It costs more to run as an offset. So it costs more taxpayer dollars. But we've been able to build a program that also is a revenue generator to make sure that we're providing programs that are financially sustainable. The same thing has to happen with design on the park. So it's not an insignificant cost. I'm not suggesting it is. But the community very clearly came out with wanting park space and needing park space. And so I feel like it's town worth job to figure out a way to develop a plan that makes that financially sustainable for the same community that wants this facility. Yeah.
I just want to say that, I'm a very long time resident of Williamsburg, outside and inside the village. And I am delighted at the changes and the, encouragement and the willingness to do these things. I think that it totally increases our quality of life in the town of Ulysses. And
Thank you. And what other questions may we answer? I see in the back. I'm sorry, I can't see Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia, sorry. I can't see it.
So, I thought I heard that, Three Falls would give, since it's, it has the opportunity for grants to be written to be used for this park, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Are you talking about Three Falls?
Well, isn't there a way to get grants for the park and the development?
The
new
land
park?
on Cold Spring.
Yeah, so maybe you could elaborate on that. Maybe I don't understand.
Sure.
Three Falls or? No, I mean the Fritz donation of Cold Spring, the new park. But I thought that Three Falls gave the opportunity to be a source from which grants could be written.
am I wrong about that?
I would be happy to explain that. So, the Three Falls Local Development Corporation was, initiated to handle, to take a licensing agreement on what we could, this is where it gets confusing, is they stole our name. We had the Three Falls LDC first, and then the state park decided to make it Three Falls also, so now I'm not sure how we're all gonna differentiate them. But, the LDC was formed with the intention of being able to have a licensing agreement with New York State on the former Camp Garden, right? But when it was formed, you like, when you file papers of incorporation, you don't say, hey, this is the only project we're ever going to work on, right? That's not how paperwork filed with the state is. So LDCs are designed to be entities that can, do things that a local government might otherwise have to pay somebody else to do. And so the idea behind that is that we hoped that, the focus was obviously going to be on the former Camp Garden property. But, it was designed in such a way that there could be a future where it did other things. And what I would like to use, and I've been very vocal, and right now that the attorney for the LDC is looking into a process to do that, is I would like each municipality that's a member of the LDC to have the ability to use and work with the Three Falls LDC board to fundraise appropriately for activities that are community, that are municipal activities. For instance, EMS, right? We talked about how expensive that is. You'll hear the mayor talk about how he wants a fire boat and an emergency services boat. I would love for outside fundraising to pay for that and not the taxpayers, even though I know it's important to have lakefront access. But that's the type of thing that the LDC could actually write grants for, it could fundraise for. Wearing my town supervisor hat, I can't ask you for a donation. It's illegal for me to ask you for a donation. When I take that hat off though, and I'm showing for, Trumansburg, or I'm sorry, like Little League or whatever else, like I can ask you for money. I just can't do it in my job. But the LDC can ask you for money. And we can ask for money in a way that could, because you know how many people have come up to me and said, I am so excited about either the Prince Park donation or the state park. I want to donate something to it. And it's like, okay, that's great. I don't really have a mechanism for you to donate through right now, right? The town can accept money, but I can't, it's harder to accept a donation of excavation work, right? And so the Three Falls LDC, my hope is it will grow into an entity that can effectively, in some cases, like a subcommittee of it, can be a friend of organization for the Prince Park. So if you want to donate a bench in honor of a loved one, that's something that can be facilitated for that part. Or you want to write a check. We've, we had a member of the community pass away, and as part of the family asked for donations to be made to Three Falls State Park or Three Falls LDC to help the Three Falls State Park, right? That was just a really wonderful bequest that were made as a result. But we need that we need that partnership that's a nonprofit that can offer charitable gift donations and all of those things and fundraise in a way that we can't at the town board level. So it's going to, I'm hopeful it is going to make it easier to get to fundraising that's appropriately allowable. And the Three Falls LDC is a vehicle that can help us do that, as opposed to setting up a completely separate organization. And if you've gone through the process of setting up a nonprofit or working on a nonprofit board, it's not an inconsiderable amount of work. We're a small community. Taking 6 months to do that separately, if we have a place and we have a way in place to umbrella it, to me makes logical sense. Yes, Nancy.
Would it be appropriate to make 2 quick announcements?
Absolutely.
I'm Nancy Zaley from the Jacksonville Community Association, and we have 2 events coming up that I just wanted to let people know about. Thursday, April 30th at 6 p.m., the Jacksonville United Methodist Church and our Community Association are co-hosting a potluck supper at the church. So at 6 p.m., we're hosting a potluck supper. There's a little quarter card on the table as you leave. And the second event is Saturday, May 2nd. We have an annual cleanup day for the Jacksonville Community Park. And before I go further, I want to say a big thank you to the town of Ulysses because it has been such a wonderful partner in supporting this 10-acre jewel of a park that, actually, let me just, man, how many people actually know about the Jacksonville Community Park? And how many of you have actually been there? Oh, I'm impressed, okay, 'cause most people, don't know, but on Saturday, May 2nd, from 9 in the morning till noon, we ask community volunteers from anywhere to come and help us clear the trails that have gotten overgrown and, clean up around the pond that is there. And we'll have coffee and snacks, and it happens to be the same day that the village is doing their in the village community cleanup. So as Roxanne was pointing out to me, if you're really into cleanups, come to the Jacksonville Park at 9, we'll clean up, and then go to the village at 10, and they're done. Finish up at 12 and still have energy. You can go over for the last hour of the village cleanup, which ends at 1. So if you're into it, get your town cleanup and your village cleanup all in one day. So thank you.
Question on, question online.
Oh, is there a question online? Sorry.
Not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying,
There is.
yeah. Raise your hand, girl.
If you have a question online, please raise your hand if you can use that feature, and Crystal will manage that. Yes, Roxanne.
I just want to piggyback onto that. Actually, the Conservation Sustainability Advisory Council is running the village one, which is really the village in the town. It's at the farmer's market. And it goes from 10 to 1. There's going to be a lot of other times besides cleaning up. There's going to be a lot of information on a lot of projects and sustainability things and music and food. And we're hoping to get lots of different groups to come and do some cleanup, but it's not only focused on that, it's meeting people and seeing how you can get involved in things and learning and all. So yeah, and we'll try to piggyback our announcing. We didn't know that we were overlapping the date, but it's also May 2nd from 10 to 1, and thankful to the town board for supporting it with some funds. And our committee overall, if you want to learn other things, we're doing lots of things related to energy and sustainability, and I have some info over there where you can see. Thanks.
Thanks, Roxanne. Hand in the back.
Hi, I know you all are trying to wrap up. I just have a quick question. The town's involvement in the flock cameras, does the town have had any say when they came in? So nothing can be done from folks in town to express dissatisfaction with them being here?
I would say no to the first part and yes to the second part.
Okay.
So the answer is no, the town doesn't have a contract with Flock. For those of you, does everybody know what Flock cameras are? Okay. Just want to make sure, talk legal government, you don't want people to be confused. So the town has no jurisdiction. We don't do any policing or any type of law enforcement in the town. So the ones that are in the town outside the village, those are county contracts. And I know the county, and you can talk to Rachel about it more, I think it's on the county's agenda for their next meeting. So that's one avenue of places to talk. And then the ones that are inside the village are our village contract. And the deputy mayor is right back there if you want to talk to him about it. So I am happy to listen. I am happy to hear. I'm happy to have conversations. You know, it hasn't come up at the town. We've not had anybody come to any of our meetings to talk about them.
Okay.
So it's not been a topic for us, but we were not a participatory agency.
So the town had no say.
Because they're not on any town roads. They're on state roads.
Okay.
The only ones I'm aware of are on state roads. And so we have no jurisdiction over that.
Great.
Yeah.
It's like you were saying before, garbage in, garbage out on social media, so.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, yes.
I'm sorry, Caitlin, this is the same boring question I've had for 2 years, but about data. Comp plan, I've been following it really closely. Lots of opportunities to have lots of local opinions. I continue to be concerned that we don't have good data on hydrology, and in particular, how it's changing with both agricultural development and changes in roadways. I think had Scott been responsible for Route 89 during the recent rain event, he would be in a little different frame of reference. There's still orange cones down by every single culvert down there. I'm continuing to advocate for a hydrology study and wondered whether we have plans to do that or whether we're continuing to hope to have somebody else fund it. I feel like it's money well spent to avoid spending money in the future myself, but like I said, it's data and it's boring.
So I would say that there is an objective to do a hydrology study in the comprehensive plan draft that came out of committee. We have been doing hydrology studies as part of every culvert project.
I understand that.
Right, yes, no, and I know you're interested in a townwide one, and I don't disagree. Having the comp plan as justification for doing it is really helpful. And I mean, I don't disagree with you too that it's important to do. I am concerned about how many projects we do that aren't bringing in outside money to do them, just because engineering costs are so expensive. And so, if we don't yet know, so, the main sources of funding, in New York State are through the consolidated funding application process, that Liz mentioned, which, those announcements typically come out, late May, early June about what's going to be available in the funding cycle. As soon as we, I would be interested in applying for one, because I think hydrology, and how water is flowing in our community is of the utmost importance when our primary environmental threat at this point appears to be rapid rain events. And so no disagreement for me. I know I appreciate that you've been a strong advocate for that. It is embedded in the document. Because when I did some soft costs, it was going to be the tens of thousands of dollars to do. And that's not insignificant if we could get some money for it. But again, yeah, I mean, we're on the same page of thinking it's important. It's just trying to factor it into the budget. Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Yes.
I have sort of an affiliated question. You're talking about like bridges and culverts and things that are water management. Can you explain a little bit about how that relates to the village's plans and like how you coordinate with them?
Right.
Can you
So
repeat that question, please?
the question is, how do we coordinate with the village on water plans as we're looking at infrastructure and things like that? So at a baseline level, the village DPW and the town DPW have a great working functional relationship. And I'm sure Scott could give you a lot of details about that. The town and the village talk at a board level. I talk to the mayor quite a bit about water. I know I have gone door to door to many to your neighborhood, and I know there are a lot of neighborhoods that are having significant water issues, particularly in the Tamarack neighborhood. And those are in the village, not the town. So in answer to your question, I will collaborate with the village, and the village will collaborate with us on any project that functionally helps address these issues. So we have taken meetings when the village was working on their stormwater management plan. The town participated in those conversations. That planning process was a couple of years ago, but we were in conversation there and working with the county as well. Water does not respect municipal lines. And it's really important to have that coordination and get the money necessary to do that kind of work as you're talking about sizable infrastructure. An example of how we collaborated with both the village and the town, and it's something I was not the lead responsible person on because it happened before me. But the cemetery road bridge, when that was replaced, like I mentioned, villages don't get to own bridges. And so that the county-owned bridge on a village road that the town did all the grant administration for and management of construction. And so that's a really good example of like municipalities trying to functionally work together to make projects happen. And I would continue to support that collaboration. The town and the village have a very strong functional relationship. And that's a priority of mine because I do not see it I don't see there being a competition between the town and the village. The village is part of the town, and a healthy, vibrant village benefits the entire town. And so finding ways to collaborate, that's a good example of it. It's not mine to take credit for, but it is a recent one. Rachel.
Just really quickly, I don't know if anyone wants to call questions about EMS or block or anything else that the county's been involved with. Really, I have some reason, and like you said,
Thanks for coming out, Rachel. Appreciate it.
County legislator.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rachel.
Shirley, yeah.
Not a question. I just wanted to, say that when each of you guys spoke, I personally was related to something that your work had impacted me personally. And I'm sure it's the same for everybody else who's here. So I just want to make sure that you have an experience. Sorry, I get one fight. The gratitude for the work that you do. You know, from the highway department picking up a dead deer for me and and the branches that got removed and then the continual labor that you do and the listening and same with you and the kids and Carissa. And you didn't speak, but I'm sure it's there.
He was a brand new town board member, and I'm not mean enough to make a percent on behalf of him.
Yes.
Next year. Well, I want to be mindful of everybody's time, so thank you so much for coming. My cards are at the back, and so a lot of ours are. And please reach out if you have any questions.
It's about $40,000.
In town, maybe a little.
Where the water goes.